The Truman Show has one of the darkest endings to a movie I've ever seen. For those of you that don't know, The Truman Show is a 1998 film starring Jim Carrey as the titular character, Truman. The plot revolves around him discovering that his entire life is a lie and he's been living on a reality studio set from birth. The climax of the film sees Truman finally escaping from his reality show prison and is played off as hopeful and lighthearted, but if you actually peel back what has just happened and what is likely to come, I would argue that him gaining freedom is far more sinister than it looks. On the surface, it's good that he finally makes it out of the dome and takes back control of his life, but what is he leaving to? His entire life is right there in the dome. He has no real friends or family on the outside. He doesn't even have experience interacting with regular people. Everyone he's ever had any type of interaction with has been a paid actor, and although those experiences might have been similar to what it's like to interact with a regular person, it would still be according to a script and written in a way that's more entertaining. Even if he were to overcome that barrier, let's also remember he'd be homeless and potentially broke. He had a job in the dome, however, we don't know what he was paid, and considering he was essentially living in a simulation, they could have given him monopoly money for all we know. And you might be thinking, his live show was pretty popular. They had to be making money to be able to afford all those actors, and yes, the show might have made a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if it made hundreds of millions of dollars, but the thing is, even though Truman was the main character of The Truman Show, he technically never signed any contract that states anyone has to pay him anything. We know for a fact that in the real world, people that have money don't like to give it to people that don't have money, especially if they legally don't have to. So any money that the producers of The Truman Show made that technically should belong to him because they've exploited his likeness since birth, he legally has no claim to, simply because he never signed a contract stating that they had to. At best, he could find a lawyer that would represent him because of the attention that lawyer could get and potentially take them to court, but there's no guarantee he'd win, and the stress of having to deal with that, and on top of the fact that he just found out his life was a lie, would ultimately lead to his eventual psychotic break, which wouldn't be that far away. So far, I've only spoken about external factors in regards to Truman escaping his reality show prison, but what about the internal factors? How does this affect Truman mentally and emotionally? Well, just put yourself in his shoes. Imagine that every interaction you've ever had, everything you've ever known, every person you've ever cared about and thought cared about you was a lie. And not in the Matrix sense where reality is fake, but those are real people. No, everything has been a lie for the sake of entertainment, but more importantly, for money. Think about the trust issues this man has. People get their hearts broken in high school and carry that adolescent pain with them throughout the rest of their lives. So how long do you think it'll take him to recover from this, if he ever does? The paranoia of not being able to trust anyone you come in contact with, not being able to trust any of your experiences, not even being able to trust yourself, because how can you be sure that you are even you? Sure, you have a personality, but do you really? If everything in your life was orchestrated for the sake of being entertaining, how can you be sure that you even like what you like? How can you be sure your wants and desires aren't the result of the studio slowly brainwashing you over time? How can you even be sure you really escaped and this isn't just some elaborate plot to start a new series where the premise is you thinking you're in the real world but you're actually still trapped and still being lied to? That type of existential crisis is enough to cause serious mental degradation to even the strongest willed individuals, and will surely land Truman in the nearest hospital the moment the gravity of the situation hits him in the face. I like The Truman Show. I'd even call it a classic movie, but in its attempt to highlight the exploitation of individuals for content, it accidentally created the darkest scenario that I pray no individual ever has to experience.